Moonboarding is a fantastic way to improve your attention, power, and so much more when it comes to climbing really hard routes. And if you're anything like me, then you've probably made quite a few mistakes at the beginning of your training. Today we're going to talk about 9 of those mistakes I have personally made, and I know a ton of other people have made as well when it comes to Moonboard training. If you aren't familiar with how to use the Moonboard already, go ahead and check out the video that I made with Coach Tosh. She walks us through how you actually use the Moonboard so you can start adding that to your training regimen. Mistake number 1 is probably the most common, which is why I'm including it here up at the front, and that's that you are not getting enough rest. This is both not getting enough rest between tries and not getting enough rest between sessions. Moonboarding takes a lot of finger strength, it takes a lot of grip strength, and it takes a lot of effort. So you need to be adequately recovered afterwards, otherwise you're at risk of getting injured, you're at risk of not seeing improvements and actually getting a decline in performance, and you're at risk of just not having as much fun, because the more you fail, the harder it seems to be to stay having fun. I've talked about rest and recovery tons on this channel, but specifically for Moonboarding, because it's so powerful, you need to make sure that you give yourself at least a day's rest between Moonboard training sessions. And this is actually something recommended from the Moonboarding company themselves. In an article I read about their training, they recommend not training more than 1 sequential day with the Moonboard because of how powerful it can be. In addition to getting enough rest between sessions, you need to get enough rest between tries. This is the same thing with climbing. If you just get back on and get back on, get back on, you're not going to have the energy or strength to give it your all. And this is something that I've actually found really challenging, even when I'm just climbing, not just for the Moonboard, where I want to get back on and try again. So what I've actually adopted that seems to help a lot is I put a timer on my watch. So you can do this on your phone, what are those called? Watches thing. Get a stopwatch. You could even get yourself a stopwatch if you really need to, where you give yourself 5 minutes of rest between tries. That way you can give it your all. And the further into the session, you might need to increase your break time. You may need 10 minutes instead of 5, just because your body is so tired at that point. Mistake number 2 is certainly one that I was making for a really long time until someone actually told me differently, and that you may be limiting yourself by looking at the grade of the climb before clicking on it. The thing with the Moonboard is all of these are set by climbers, and they choose, yeah, I think that's a V3, or I think that's a V4. The accuracy of this is not always that great. In fact, if there haven't been a lot of sends on that route and someone said it's a V6, for example, it is very well likely that that person is a V5 climber and it was so hard for them they just think it's a V6 when maybe it's just a hard V5. Or vice versa, which unfortunately I think happens a little bit more often, is that someone considers the grade soft, and so instead of saying it's a V7, they say it's a V6. I found that sometimes V4s are easier than V3, and sometimes even like a V5 is easier than a V3. So consider that when you are working on the Moonboard. Don't limit yourself on the grade, like when you go through and filter things. And my suggestion for this is, if you want to put filters on to limit how many routes come up on your phone or on the app, instead of limiting it by the grade, try filtering it and sorting it by the most repeated routes. That way you know when you're going on that V3, there's hundreds of people who've also gone on that and have rated it as a V3. Mistake number 3 is that you're pairing Moonboard training with some other intense training. Campus boarding, for example, hangboarding, these are all really intense training and take a lot of finger strength. And when you do this, you increase your chance of getting injury, but you also decrease the value that you're getting out of that training session. If your hands are tired, if you're tired, you're not going to be able to work as hard on the campus board, for example, so you're not going to get as much back from it. It would be better if you separated Moonboard training from something like campus training. That being said, with Moonboarding being such an intense and powerful activity, it might be a good idea to pair it with an endurance workout, for example, where working after you're really tired and sore is actually how you build that endurance. So it's a really good pair. Number 4 is crucial to ensure that you stay safe and you don't tweak any of those fingers, and that is that you might be skipping the warm-up side of a Moonboard. Before you hop on the Moonboard, make sure that you get a good warm-up in. You should be getting blood to all of your limbs, your feet, and that could be a warm-up like what I like to do, where I do a bunch of routes, maybe 4x4s, for example, or pyramids on lighter climbs, and then move to the Moonboard. That way, when you're getting on, your tendons are already warm, your muscles are warm, and you're going to be able to apply a lot more force in each move when you're warm compared to if you were trying to do that on cold cold muscle. If you're a really hard climber, of course, maybe that V3 on the Moonboard is a warm-up to you, and fantastic, then you can do that, but make sure you get some warm-ups in before you move on to the hard stuff. Number 5 is consistency, and this is probably the one that's plagued me the most because I find myself where I really enjoy moonboarding, and I'll do it really consistently and then I'll stop doing it and I lose all of my progress. If you want to get the most out of moonboarding, then do it consistently. Once a week or twice a week if you have enough time for that. Sometimes we feel like we need to do it more often so we can get more benefit from it, but this can be really challenging to keep up with, and we're not going to see the same progress if we had just stuck with it consistently, like once a week or twice a week. Number 6 is that you might feel a little tweakiness in your fingers and you moonboard anyway. I think it's more likely for people to climb with tweaky fingers on a moonboard for some reason than it is when they climb outdoors. And maybe that's because we're so focused on getting that one move, we kind of ignore the signs that our fingers need a moment's rest. So if you are feeling any tweakiness in your fingers, do something else. Maybe it's actually time for an ab workout or something like that where your hands can be given a rest. That way we don't accidentally pull something, because wouldn't that be so crappy to actually pull or hurt your tendons while you're training instead of actually climbing? Number 7 is that you limit yourself to the problems that you can find. There are thousands of problems, and so instead of going through and just finding the right problem for you, maybe it's time to make your own problem. This is one of the cool things about moonboarding is you can create a problem and share it with your friends, but it's also a great way just to feel out the moonboard. If you keep on falling, it might be time to try making your own move. And actually, after you finish making your own problem, you can put it into the app itself and name it whatever you want. So not only would you enjoy that fun route that you could actually complete and it does all the cool moves you want to do, it's also something you can share with your friends and people around the world who may also be interested in trying out your fun moonboard problem. Mistake number 8 and 9 work really well together, and unfortunately if you're making one, you're probably making the other. So let's talk about that right now. I have made this mistake so many times. In fact, I still make this mistake. I don't know why. Mistake number 8 is that you get stuck on one part of the problem, and so you just move on to a different problem. Maybe you get frustrated because you can't finish that route, but this is just like a route that you would see out in the wild or a route that you would see somewhere else in the climbing gym, where sometimes you just need to work that one specific move over and over again until you finish it. And that's how it kind of fits into number 9, mistake number 9, which is not projecting route. So many times it feels great to just flash route. So you stick with grades or you stick with climbs that you think you can flash. But you'll actually get more out of this if you have to work the problem, if you have to make one move at a time, project that move, and then the next session work on the next move, for example. This can be an awesome way to build up your strength while also building up your confidence and just getting better at climbing in general, because you're not just moving on after something seems hard. You're actually putting in the effort to finish the route. In addition to being stronger, you're also going to feel amazing about it. There seems to be something different about the mental benefits when it comes to a problem that you just flashed versus a problem that you had to work over and over and over again. There can be some amazing feelings that comes from an on-site or a flash, but that feeling you get of completing a route that seemed impossible at first and now one that you can complete maybe multiple times, that is just an incredible feeling. And you can get that feeling while moonboarding, but you actually have to take the time to project on those hard routes. If this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share with any of your friends who may also be working on the moonboard.